have a wonderful electronic invention I want you to see. It looks something like this.
No, it's easy, but it's worth it.
We have the opportunity to make a difference.
You might not even know it, but you can give it to someone else. It's easy to lay low.
Keep your distance when in public.
Hold off on the parties for now. Wash those hands.
Let's avoid big gatherings.
There's lots to look forward to.
I want to stay in school.
I want to play sports.
Let's get ourselves back in school. Mask up, Milford.
Mask up, Milford.
Mask up, Milford.
Mask up.
Mask up.
Wash up, spaced out.
Mask up, Milford.
Keep our distance and we can get through this.
Let's mask up so we can play sports.
It might be tough now, but we're going to do this together.
Mask up, Milford.
Hey, welcome to Milford Radio. What's up, guys?
What's up, guys? Milford?
What's going on?
Milford in the house. That was a brand new video from the city of Milford. It's called Mask Up Milford. A lot of familiar faces there. I mean, you have the Valvo kids, you got Young, Gaetano, of course, Mayor Ben Blake. They did a great job. I thought that was, the Honorable.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Benjamin G. Blake. We learned what the G stands for. You have to listen to one of our old shows to realize what that is. But guys, welcome back. We haven't done this in a while. We felt like, we did this show 10 years ago from Cafe Atlantique. We did it very old school. We brought it back because of COVID. We realized there really wasn't anything for people to do. They couldn't leave their house. They couldn't do anything back when COVID first hit it. Right, exactly. And so we brought it back, and it seems to be a good time to do this show. We have a great guest tonight, Dr. Anna Cutaia on fire with us again tonight. She has a lot of information. As most of you parents received an email today, and we'll talk about that because that email probably should have waited an hour and a half because she could have announced it here. But she'll be joining us in just a short while. Dan Z, Chris Isa, good to see you guys.
Nice to see you guys. Been a while.
Great to see you. Yeah.
It has. Our last show, we were joined by Betsy Nyland from the Get in Touch Foundation. It was an awesome interview. She's an awesome woman. I definitely suggest that you check that out on either our Facebook page or YouTube page. And as we're talking about our pages, I'm going to post the link that you can actually join the show later on. I'm going to post that in the comments to both Facebook and YouTube right now. You can join us anytime you want. Matthew, how you doing? Let's see. When you post on Facebook or YouTube, we can see it. See, Matt and Italy just wrote there, and we posted up on the page. So if you make comments, questions, whatever you want, post it. We'll see it. We typically ignore as many people as we possibly can, but if we like your question, we'll get it up there. This time change is killing me, guys. I mean, it is previously here in the studio, I usually close the blind behind me because the light is glaring in here. But it's kind of depressing.
Getting dark early.
I know. I feel like I'm ready for bed around 5:30, and then you're like 5:30. This is crazy. I'm not that old.
You are that old, but I feel the same way. And no, but we were actually, my wife and I were having that same conversation. You get home from work, we sit down as a family, we have dinner, and then we're kind of looking at each other like it's 7 o'clock. Like we should not be going to bed right now, but right. It feels like it's midnight. It's a really interesting time, but whatever.
I don't think it's any different from any other year, unless it's 2020 does seem to be a little bit darker. So,
and I think it's because we spent so much time together already. You know what I mean? Like everyone's kind of been stuck in the house, and now we're stuck in the house again, and not because of COVID right now, not yet, but it's because it's dark. My kids are biking around town, and they have to be home at 4:15. Because I don't want them riding in the dark. But speaking of masking up, we definitely should all be wearing our masks. I don't want this to be a political statement whatsoever, but I know there are some people out there that are mask haters, and they say that you can't force me to wear a mask. But in reality, I mean, these are probably the same people that said you can't tell me to wear a seatbelt. And in fact, you do have to wear your seatbelt, or you're going to get pulled over and you get a ticket, which I may have not gotten one of those tickets in the past. But that's not important. But guys, I mean, it's not that difficult to just, and again, we're not saying for the next 50 years we have to wear a mask into every store. Let's get past this and wear a mask. I mean, are you guys running into any issues with that?
Zeke?
Not really running into that, but the way that I think about it is, the common excuse I hear of people that don't want to wear the mask is they say, well, I can't breathe with it on. And I think the alternative is probably worse. You're not going to be able to breathe for a while if you don't wear it, so, right. And you could catch it,
Yeah, it's crazy. We were actually talking just before the show. We were talking about COVID in general, and it seems like the walls are closing in on us as far as like when COVID first hit, and I know, a lot of people died and a lot of people got sick, but I felt like I really didn't know many people who had it or contracted it, or even those people didn't know people. But it seems like in the last couple of weeks, it's been multiple friends that I know have it. And then a lot of other friends know someone who's close to them who have it, or a relative or something like that. So it feels like it's getting real, here in Milford, which is, it's different. I definitely feel that it feels different than it did, call it a couple months ago. I did want to show you, this is a very research driven show. Right. So all I did was,
our statisticians work hard every day.
Yes, they do. I just put into Google Connecticut COVID cases, and this is what we got. So this is the result from Google, and as you can see, it's just it's spikes early, and it looks like the highest is around the 2000s or something like that, and then it looks like we're even spiking higher right now than we were. And again, this is Connecticut cases. And then there's a little toggle in the top left there that says new cases. You drop that down and it brings you to deaths. And this is the deaths in Connecticut, which spiked really high. Again, cases, deaths. Not looking at specific numbers themselves, but if you're just looking at trends, like where this report is showing you, this is cases, spiked high, came low. Now it's definitely spiking again. Compared to deaths, which spiked super high and then came down, was steady, and it looks like it is gradually coming up a little bit. So what does that
daily numbers, right?
Right. That's daily. What does that tell us? I have no friggin' idea, but I thought it was cool art.
That's yeah. Well, I mean, I guess you would read from that the spikes in new cases per day have gone up so high that the correlation is that more deaths will follow, unfortunately.
Right. If you look at
the beginning, if you go back to the other one, cases, which tend to be a lot higher, I guess, on that graph and earlier in the beginning, the deaths. But I don't think we truly understood how to protect ourselves and how to protect people that are vulnerable to it.
Yeah, right.
And I think that really attributed to a lot of deaths early on. I'm hoping that the vulnerable cases or people that are, highly affected by the coronavirus, hopefully they're keeping their distance and everyone around them is keeping their distance, and we'll have a high number of cases, but hopefully it doesn't correlate to number of deaths moving forward.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, and I would think that the hospitals, before, they weren't well equipped with the equipment they needed to treat the virus. And now that they are, hopefully the deaths will stay lower because, people that are going in will get the proper treatment right away.
Right.
Sure.
I agree. So we're going to get to our guests in just 1 second. There's one thing, we've had Gil Simmons from WTNH on this show more than once. And what do we call him? Gil the Thrill or something like that. He's an interesting dude. He is full energy all the time. But I saw something he posted, which actually made me not super excited. Gil Simmons is expecting 6 or more big snow or ice storms this winter. We basically didn't have winter last year. You know, we skied in Vermont a little bit, and there was some snow. But here in Connecticut, I mean, we had a couple flurries. And we could ask Dr. Cutaia, but I don't know if we had many. We might have had 1 or 2 snow days the whole year last winter. So this year, Dr. Gil Simmons is saying that it's going to be painful. But what else do we expect from 2020? I mean, it could be the end of the world.
You know what? Throw it at us. We could handle that. I mean, what's a little snow? And hey, do we even need snow days anymore? We're all pros at distance learning, right?
That's right. That's right.
We don't need to get out of our beds.
Yeah, there you go, Isaac. Yeah.
That's right. So anyway, let's get to our guest tonight, because there are a lot of people watching, and everyone watching is here to listen to our guest tonight. Everyone watching now knows who our guest is tonight. She was hired as superintendent of schools in Milford, which is an awesome job. You got to work your butt off to get this job. It's a great thing to have this position, no matter what district you're in. And then the world completely falls on its face with a pandemic, and now she's charged of figuring out what the heck to do. And that can't be very easy. So you're going to welcome our guest tonight, Dr. Anna Cutaia. How are you?
Hey guys, how are you?
Hey, hello.
What an intro, Mark. I've never had an intro like that. Someone trying to figure out what the heck to do.
That's it. That's it. The world fell on its face. And
that's the full job description, actually. Figure it out.
Figure it out on the go with no manual. So let's start with the obvious. We've had high schools move to a full virtual schedule every day. And then actually just before this show, you sent out a letter to all of the parents in Milford district saying that the middle schools will be fully virtual. Tell us a little bit about what's going on here. I do know as a parent of both a high schooler and a middle schooler, the amount of letters that you're writing, your hands got to be exhausted of just saying, hey, got another COVID case here, got another COVID case here. Tell us a little bit about what's going on.
So thanks for recognizing that, Mark. Your communication is really important to me, important to our school district as a system. So we hope that parents are getting the information, feel like they're getting the information. If you are not getting those or want to get a review of those, milforded.org has a full database of our letters and all communication since March, since the day we closed our school doors on March 13th, 2020. So just to summarize, starting yesterday, our high schools have gone completely distance learning, and we did send out a communication today announcing that our middle schools will go distance learning. And just want to hear, I want people to hear me loud and clear. Our number one job is to keep us healthy and safe. That is what we're trying to do, while at the same time prioritize academic and social emotional needs of our young people and staff. I know that we have 2 issues at hand: educational recovery and economic recovery. We have to prioritize that within our school community. So we are going to do everything we can to keep our youngest learners in school for as long as possible. So that means our elementary school. So I know people are now waiting, when will the elementary letter come, right? Well, I hope to never send that letter, actually. I hope that we have had the opportunity to redeploy staff. So bottom line, in Milford, 14 schools, let me just give you scope, okay? 14 schools, 5,400 kids, about 1,300 employees. That's what makes up Milford Public Schools. And out of that magnitude, we've had 73 positive cases, 19 staff members, and 54 students. And that's from the beginning of our first case, which was back in September. So that's cumulatively, not today, but in all, we've had 73 positive cases. What that starts to do is, because of our contact tracing and identifying people who have been in close contact, you become And I have some props for us tonight.
Perfect. Oh,
Ready?
wow. Look at this.
Okay.
Hold
So,
on. Let me zoom in on you. How do I do this?
You zoom in on me?
There you go.
There you go. Okay. So this is the Milford Health Department contact tracing protocol. You will see here is in the red is the positive case. Positive cases automatically get quarantined. But there are two other types of people that get quarantined. That is person B, this way, and person C. So person B, I will read for the group, is any person who lives in the same household with a person A, meaning a positive case.
Right.
So we may have persons B, adults, staff members, who are not COVID positive, but because they have been in contact, possibly with someone at home, a loved one, someone that lives there, they have to quarantine. And a person C is any person with close contact, and the definition of close contact with a person A is greater than 15 minutes cumulatively across a 24-hour period, less than 6 feet apart. So that can occur inside a school or outside of school. So if you've been in the vicinity of a person A for more than 15 minutes, less than 6 feet apart, and no mask, by the way, naughty, cumulatively, right, you have to quarantine. So imagine positive cases in our community, not school only, but in our community rise. Of course, persons B and C are going to start to increase as well. So as of yesterday, we had 181 adults absent in Milford Public Schools. Now, not all of that is COVID related. That's just in November. Right. People are out. You have other reasons to be out. But imagine trying to cover 181 spots in a school system when nobody really wants a substitute. Our substitute pool has shrunk. Thank you to those people who are subbing in our schools. Thank you. And we have deployed everybody we can to cover classrooms. So people might be saying, so what does the high school, middle school have to do with keeping elementary schools open? So what we are doing is we are redeploying adults from the high school and the middle to the elementary. So the 15 adults we were able to redeploy from high school went to 11 schools, elementary and middle. And yesterday, it simply wasn't enough to cover. Because so when you take 15 people and divide them into 11, that doesn't make a big impact. So by putting middle schools on distance learning, we're going to gain an additional 19 adults. So we are hoping, our strategy is to redeploy 34 adults to 8 elementary schools in hopes that we can continue to keep our school doors open while at the same time meet educational needs, realizing that our economic recovery to a certain extent relies on school doors being open. So that's the big thinking back there.
Right. So, and that's a great point. The economic, rebound or even decline, a lot of it is based on the elementary schools, especially because actually Heise and I were just talking about this before the show. He has elementary age kids. I do not. I'm going to have 2 of my kids now working from home virtually, which is cool, but they're old enough to kind of take care of themselves. I can work from home. There's some leniency there. When you have a first grader, a second grader, a third grader, whatever, that's going to affect mom and dad. If they're both employed, that's going to affect someone to be able to be home. So we're saying that elementary schools are not going to close, or at least that's the mission. What will it take to close those schools, and how are we going to handle that?
So I've been talking about 5 key factors that I consider when keeping a school open or considering closure. One is health metrics. Our health metrics in Milford are not looking good. So back on October 22nd, only 26 days ago, on the color chart that Mark, I think you were looking at earlier. On that same web page, by the way, on October 22nd, Milford was a gray community. Gray
right.
being
I remember that.
4 and fewer cases per 100,000. each day. Here we are 26 days later, and we now are red, the most extreme color community on the map. That means we have, actually our number is 15.4 cases per 100,000 each day. Now, again, another prop for you. So
There you go.
Is the CDC, Connecticut Department of Public Health town level COVID response framework. At one time, we weren't even on the chart. You see, it starts on yellow, but Milford is now in red right here. And you will notice that there is a section on schools, which I'll read to you. When you are in the red, in collaboration with local health and superintendent, consider more distance learning above 25. So the threshold to be in red is 15 cases per 100,000. So what will force our hand on closing elementary schools? One, health metrics significantly worsen. And there is some forecast of that occurring, particularly because we're entering into a holiday season, right?
Right.
So I don't know about you guys, but I'm reconsidering what my holidays will look like.
Yep.
And that's hard because I have elderly parents. I want to be with them, but I also don't want to put them at risk. So we are making some very difficult family decisions in my own personal home, as I'm sure many and most of us are. So the health metrics of Milford will impact our decision-making as we move forward. And then what's really happening right now is the available human resources. How many people, how many adults can I keep in our school buildings so that we can have appropriate monitoring and support of our kids? Now, if we have persons B and C, as I stated on the chart, we have moved to our teachers teaching from home and live streaming into our classrooms. We still need, though, adults in classrooms to monitor kids. So I think two pieces to answer your question, Mark. If the health metrics significantly worsen and if we can't keep adults in our schools, that will force our hands on revisiting our elementary school status, unfortunately. Not something I want to do.
Right. No, and that makes sense. Like I said, when you get back to the economics of this town, and not even just this town, because a lot of parents work elsewhere, it affects the community. It affects the state, it affects household incomes and things like that. But so we're talking virtual. How comfortable are you with the teachers right now? It's high school, middle school, hopefully not elementary, but it could be. How comfortable are you with, are the teachers ready for this, to do this 5 days a week? They're at home potentially or at school, and the student is at home of a classroom of whatever, however many kids. Are they ready technology wise and knowledge wise to have the kid, the child have a great education? And I understand this is, we're in a pandemic, so we're doing the best we can, but what are your expectations there?
So this is a good time to give a huge shout out to our teaching staff, right? Incredible job that they have been doing, teaching in a whole new world. If you guys have seen pictures on Twitter, desks 6 feet apart, kids wearing masks, teachers teaching behind plexi. I mean, we have seen great flexibility and mastership in the teaching ranks. So I'm so thankful to all of our MPS teachers, staff members that are making it happen. So thank you. So last March, we were thrown into distance learning, right? Thursday, March 12th, my letter goes out, we close school doors, and all of a sudden, March 16, we are 4 days later, distance learning. I'm happy to share that our experience distance learning wise is so much more rigorous and robust. And there was a method to the madness. If you guys recall, our schedule actually is a 4-day in-person and a 1-day distance learning for all kids.
Right.
And I'll tell you guys, that 1 day a week distance learning for everybody since the beginning of September is going to pay off, because it already is. Our kids and our staff are well in the mode of distance learning. We've worked out the kinks. So moving to distance learning, I am 100% certain that is going to be seamless. Parents could see some differences in the experience this year compared to last year. We have many more interactive and collaborative apps. You will see kids working much more so together in small groups. Now with Google Meet having breakouts, thank you, Google. We can actually set up some virtual small group breakouts for kids. You'll see a higher level of rigor as far as the amount of synchronous learning. We are shooting for a minimum of 50% synchronous learning across the grades. Now, we got to be developmentally appropriate and reasonable. We don't want 11 to 18-year-olds on a screen from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. We also have to think about the appropriateness of just shoving our screen in front of our kids and saying, okay, now go learn today. So we are going to make it doable and manageable, because first and foremost, why I am a contributor of a school community that has an economic recovery in mind, first and foremost, we have to think about educational recovery. So we have to ensure that distance learning is going to do its job, because kids still have to learn. And whether we like to admit this or not as educators, distance learning cannot take the place of in-person teaching. And with having so much of it last year, we do have to accelerate to kind of close the gap of what's happened over the last 9-10 months. So I think parents will definitely see a difference.
I know Zeke's got a question, but just really quick, because it ties into that last one. What role do you see remote learning playing in future education? I know right now we're doing remote learning because it's a necessity. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and it's like, holy moly, we got to get these kids, taught. But do you see this being part of the future when we're all back to normal?
Well, I think Heise is the one that was kidding around behind the scene saying, I wonder if we'll have any snow days anymore, right? That is a somewhat blasphemous talk, by the way.
I'm sure.
For some kids, they're like, what? No snow day?
Yeah.
So I do believe that
I like school on Saturdays too. So we could really make up some ground that way.
A rare breed you are. I think it would be, I think shame on us as an educational institution if we don't change how we do teaching and learning based on what we learned during this pandemic. I think there will be changes on how we engage kids, what kind of learning takes place inside of the four walls of a school, and what learning can take place before we walk into a school building or after we walk out. We have technology that helps us access knowledge-based pieces of learning. And I think we're learning a lot about the maximum use of time when we're face-to-face on application and inquiry. So I think the way teachers and students interact and how students and students interact will be different in the future because of what we're experiencing now. And I hope it makes a difference in how we assess what kids know and can do. I think it's putting into place standardized testing and how we assess kids in the future. At least I hope that's the case.
Gotcha. Zeke, I know you have a question, and it actually Jose just posted on Facebook. Yeah. So go ahead.
Yes, I mean, obviously, first of all, thanks for everything that you've done and you continue to do for the city of Milford and, all the children and everybody. The changes and the manipulation of, your resources has been phenomenal. And I wanted to say thank you for everything you've done that way. So with that, we've had a couple comments come in, and one actually ties into my question. We've had some questions about high school sports and how they're going to be played going forward. And I guess the CIAC had announced something about a January 19th date for winter sports.
Right. So we found out today that CIAC is postponing all winter sports until January 19th at least. So that, I see a question in the chat too, applies to all winter sports, including high school basketball, I'm sorry to say. So that also impacts all team conditioning and skill development. So we're putting all that on hold as well in Milford. And any in-person type of clubs and activities will be postponed till January as well. So we take our guidance and direction from CIAC, Health Department. So we are going to follow suit and postpone winter sports as well.
Interesting. I mean, it's too bad. At the same time, it's what it is. I mean, we're struggling to get back to what we consider a normal, which is being able to go to school normally, being able to go to the store without a mask, all this kind of stuff. And right now, we're just going to have to slow down on the sports. Heiza, I know you had a question as well.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, it goes to the point. I'm glad you brought it up, Dr. Cutaia, about obviously distance learning can replace in person, and there are certain students that learn differently in a lot of different ways. And especially when we break it down by age, and the importance of keeping the elementary schools open is, I think, key, just because of the amount of learning and how they learn early on makes such a big difference for later in their educational careers. Is there any kind of thought or process or committee going into the decision-making as far as identifying the younger students that maybe need to catch up after, the end of the school year last year and leading into this year, and how are we going to kind of make up the difference? And you may not have the answer right now, but is, the forward thinking, part of myself is thinking like, and especially selfishly with a first grader and a second grader in elementary school, I know it's a big difference of the drop off in distance learning, and it's no fault of the efforts and everything else that everyone's put forth in, what we've had to basically, live with right now. But moving forward, and, I guess what are the next steps, and how do we try to identify those students and try to make up lost ground, possibly?
So, that's interesting.
A lot of thoughts there, a lot of thoughts. I'm just off the top of my head here.
So, because we have the next couple of hours to discuss this, right?
Yes,
so
yes, I know.
So let me just say that when it comes to educational recovery, and that's a phrase I like to use because it parallels the economic recovery that we talk about so much in the pandemic. And I don't want people to forget that we have educational recovery also to consider. To me, they go hand in hand. You can't separate the two in a conversation, okay? And educational recovery, just like economic recovery, Heiza, is going to be many years. So you can't expect your first grader to, quote unquote, catch up in 6 months.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah.
So, and as an educational institution, we're trying to flip the lens so that we don't look at this in a deficit way, saying what kids can't do or aren't doing compared to where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
We're going to try to take it from what can a kid do and how can we accelerate them to shrink this gap that we know may exist. And that's a different mindset, which I think is really hard for adults to really wrap their head around because they can only see how far behind our kids are getting, right? And our kids are much more resilient than we give them credit for. In fact, there are many studies that show that young people are much more resilient, I think, than adults. And they have a bounce backness that we don't demonstrate sometimes. So we already actually are starting to address this in Milford. So proud of our leadership team who have been writing. So in a normal world, Heiza, we have a curriculum that maps out what all first graders should do. But our leadership team has mapped out a curriculum based on priority standards. So we pluck out the most important ones and really hone in on those to accelerate the learning for kids, hoping to shrink that gap. So Milford, I like to think, is already ahead of that, knowing that we're in this for the long run. We're in the long game. It's not going to be a short recovery. It's going to be a long one. So I know it's hard not to worry about your kiddo. And, the same worry exists with juniors in high school. Because, junior year, how critical that is. And that's, I think colleges are already responding on looking at transcripts and academic successes differently for admission. So I think it's going to cause change across the board. So I would ask for folks to be patient, because we're going to engage in a long-term recovery, and be open to thinking about it a little differently.
That makes a lot of sense.
2 hours. That was good. Thank you.
Chris, do you have another 25-minute question? 25-minute question?
I don't know. No, I don't have enough time to get it out from my brain to my mouth.
Dr. Cutaia, two things. Number one, if there's anything that you want to drive home, I'm seeing the numbers. We have a good amount of people watching. If there's any last second things that you want to throw out there, I don't want to, ruin your entire evening. And then two, when you close up, I did just read that there's a new committee called the Racial Equality, Equity, and Social Justice Committee. So I want you to touch on that. But before that, if there's anything you want to throw out there, just to have these, because hold on, there's just stuff flying in here. And you don't need to. We're just getting bombarded with questions. You don't need to answer those. But if there's anything you want to throw out there, that would be great.
Yeah. So thanks for that. I just want to underscore the fact that there are no recorded cases of transmission inside of our schools. That all of the contact tracing for our positive cases are leading to outside of our school doors. So one, I believe our schools are an incredibly safe place to be. And that has a lot to do with the adults in our school system really putting in place and following safety protocols. So I want parents to feel much more assured that keeping elementary kids in school is a safe strategy. Two, we really need everyone's help. If transmission is occurring outside school walls, you know how schools used to be the 3 R's, right? Well, now they're the 3 W's. Wear your mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance. So if we can get everyone to do that in all walks of life, every part of their day, including school, I think we'll be able to beat this. We're going to have to come together as a school community, as the community of Milford, to really beat this this virus. So I'm hoping that we will continue our streak on no transmission within school walls, keeping us all safe and following our protocols and partnering with our community to get that done. So you want me to talk about the ad hoc committee of the Board of Education? Happy to touch upon that. Happy to touch upon that. So very proud of our elected officials. I'll tell you, our 10 Board of Ed members acted very swiftly in light of the death of George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. And they want to take a stand and write, draft, and pass a resolution that stands up for race, equity, and social justice for our students and families of color in our school community. So this short-term ad hoc committee has worked, and they have completed their work to draft a resolution that will go before the board on Monday night for their first read and consideration to hopefully be passed, approved upon in December. And that will help then marry with our vision for what we're doing in race, equity, and social justice. And maybe, guys, that's a future Milford Radio interview on what our
absolutely.
Race, equity, social justice.
Yeah, it's cool. I happened to read it before we came on, and I figured I'd throw that out. But Dr. Cutaia, we always appreciate you coming on the show.
Always appreciate you asking. It was very timely.
Yeah, it was timely. Next time we have to wait for the CIAC and for you to make those big announcements on the same day that we're having you on the show, though.
In the show too. You don't want me to do any pre-announcements, right?
No, exactly. It's got to be broadcast
here first.
Yes. Yeah. We could show you like signing the letter that's going to be emailed out later. but the announcement.
Okay. Me hitting send, doing the photo op like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. With your props, like with a big sign, and we're pointing at things. Well, we appreciate.
I have to say that our community has been incredibly supportive. So I want to take advantage of the opportunity of thanking Milford. This has not been easy. Our decisions are often very complicated. And as I see, there are some questions in the chat. So if questions aren't being answered, feel free to email me. It's important to me that we continue our good working relationship because we have to do this together. So thanks, guys. Appreciate you asking me. And thanks to all of Milford.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Stay safe.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Dr.
you.
Anna Cutaia. Another good interview. Sorry, I got to clear my throat. That was, man. No COVID there. Another great interview. Dr. Cutaia, she always comes prepared. She always has the answers. Like it or not, I mean, she is working her butt off. There is no right answers of what's going on right now. And I don't think there's
no playbook, right?
No
playbook. What are you going to do? You roll with it and hope for the best.
Exactly. I think she's doing a great job. And it's hard. I mean, so what do we get out of this? It sounds like the number one goal of Board of Education, of the superintendent's office, of staff is to keep the young kids in school. That's what it sounds
like.
Healthy
and safe, right?
Yeah.
Healthy and safe.
Absolutely. Which is great. I'm sure the questions are still coming in, which is great. Like Dr. Cutaia said, you could email her office. You could even email us. I'm sure we could help try to get some answers to things. But there's really not that many questions. I think the communication has been pretty solid. I know there was one question right here from Kelly that says, what is the notification process to parents at the elementary school level of a classroom positive test in their child's classroom? Are they notified? But I remember this question was asked when Dr. Cutaia was on a month, maybe 2 months ago, that there is a protocol. If X happens, this is the communication that happens. If Y happens, here's the communication that happens if that happens. So,
and it's the same for every age group within the city of Milford and public schools and kids.
Right.
And health department's notified, and they try to contact trace who the student talked to and what cohort they were in and everything else. So if you don't hear anything, it means that your student, you could trust, hopefully, that your student didn't come into contact with anyone, right?
And that is through the health department.
Right.
And working in conjunction with the public schools, yeah.
Exactly. My wife works for the Milford Public School System, and she was in contact with someone who ended up having COVID, and the health department did call and they ask a million questions, which is all good. I mean, basically, they're trying to figure out, they don't want people to quarantine. Nobody wants to send 5 teachers home from this school and 3 from that school. Everyone wants to be working, and that's part of the economic recovery of things. But at the same time, like Dr. Cutaia said, it's about safety. I mean, you can't have these teachers coming into school who are, coughing their brains out and have COVID. I mean, it's not what is right for Milford.
She brought up a good point too, that as far as teachers being able to distance teach from their homes, the B and C, personal people, is it just about having a live body in the classroom to make sure the kids are in their seats and listening? Is there an opportunity for the Milford community to volunteer? Obviously, a vetted individual. You don't want any random person in the classroom, but to keep the kids in the elementary school and to allow the teacher to actually work from home while the kids are being watched, there could be an opportunity for community members to help out in that respect too. Not necessarily subs. That's a whole payroll thing and everything else. But
are you going to volunteer, Chris? I think he's going to
volunteer. Hey, as my kids know, I'm great at keeping them, listening and sitting in their seats. So
I'm sure we'll ask Colin tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
But good interview. It's such a moving parts craziness. I don't even know how to explain it. It's a big job. It's big decisions, and it's not easy, and it affects so many people. Every decision that is being made from the education department standpoint or from the superintendent's office directly impacts thousands of people. You know, like being able to work, not work. Does grandma or grandpa have to watch the kids, which then brings a potential safety issue for an older demographic? Like there's so many moving parts, and it's for every household, and every household has their own issues, right? I have issues, severe. I have major issues, but that has nothing to do with education.
That was so pre-COVID. You've always had issues.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't blame the pandemic for your issues, Mark.
That was pre-high school. But yeah, it's crazy. Every household is different, and you guys have known me longer than that. So, Zeke, the pandemic's been increasing drugs and alcohol.
It has. A lot of people are drinking. A lot of people are partaking, I assume. The good thing about that is Bridges Healthcare in Milford is, they're getting some money to help people who have drug and alcohol abuse. They've received 2 federal grants, which is amazing for them. The first one is for $2 million, and it'll be used to enhance their offerings and adding more service, and also opening another location in West Haven. So that $2 million is going to be very well spent to support people in the beginning. And then the next grant is for $300,000 a year for 5 years. And that's $1.5 million if you do the math. And I learned that in Milford school system, which will be used to create evidence-based model of prevention, which Bridges currently serves close to 2,000 people in Milford and the surrounding areas. So they got quite a bit of money to help support people who are feeling the drug and alcohol abuse during this crisis. So it's a pretty good idea. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
It's definitely important. If you feel like you need help and you don't know where to go, there are resources, people to reach out to and programs to take a part of. So it's always good to get their name out there. Bridges helps a number of people in so many different ways. So that's
Zeke.
Yeah, they're getting their funding.
What's the phone number to Bridges?
For what? No, I'm kidding. I don't have it. I'll tell you.
Google it.
I'll Google
it.
Hi, so there was
I don't see it.
About a foreign senior that's obviously
Henry Leonard from Foreign High School, a senior at Foreign, just qualified for the National Merit semifinalist in the 2021, which sounds like such a great year, 2021 National Merit Scholarship Program. He became eligible by taking the preliminary, the PSAT, and the National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. Out of 1.5 million juniors across the country took the exam, with fewer than 1% of those test takers receiving semifinalist status. So he now goes on to the next round, hopefully becoming a finalist and ultimately being eligible for a variety of scholarships provided by corporations and businesses. So nice job, Henry Leonard from Foreign High.
Woo.
And nice. Hopefully all that hard work is paying off or going to come to fruition.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. 1% of over 1 point whatever million people you said across the country.
Zeke, do the math.
Zeke, Milford Public School math, do it.
1% of what?
Yeah. Remember when all our math teachers said we won't have a calculator on us at all times?
Yeah, now it's in our pocket.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't even have to push the numbers in. I just tell Siri.
Our kids don't even read.
Yeah.
They can't read or write handwriting. Like they don't need to write.
Yeah, they missed the mark on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So just a few things. We're going to wrap up because this show was a lot of questions, a lot of information from Dr. Cutaia, and we appreciate that. But Thanksgiving's coming up, and Thanksgiving this year is crazier than ever in the fact that it's during a pandemic, and families, I truly believe, don't know what the heck to do, right? There's families that are saying, we should not get together. We should get together. I'm not afraid of the virus. Well, I am afraid of the virus. I think we should all just be on the safer side. It's better to be safe than sorry right now. At the end of the day, for this year, because 2020 has completely sucked, let's just continue and let's just say we're going to have a suckier Thanksgiving. Keep it smaller. Please do everything that you can for people in need. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm personally going to do, and I hope that more people do. We have to be able to give back. There's going to be a lot of older people that are going to be a little bit more lonely this year. People who can't see their families, people who can't afford certain things. There's been a lot of job loss going on. It's time for people who have, and you don't need a lot of means. You don't have to be a millionaire. You don't have to be 100,000-aire. If you have a couple bucks, or if you have a couple minutes to spend and go say hi to someone from a distance, an older person that might be alone, I think this is the time to do it. And guys, that I know personally, I'm going to be doing this. This is something that my wife and I talked about. That I just think it's super. It's important all the time, but this year especially, there's going to be a lot of sad people.
Yeah, no, it is important. And whether they want to see you or not, Mark, I fully believe that you're going to spend time with those people. So, all joking aside, you're right. If you have opportunity of time or money or both to give back, there's a lot of programs that are hurting and there's a lot of people that are hurting. So, if you have that means, please do share.
That's really it. There's two other things that I had on the list. One was the smash burger. Did you guys?
Yeah, good segue.
Smash burger.
You got smoothie?
No burger, smoothie.
Now it's a smoothie place. The smash burger was at the Post Road is now going to be Tropical Smoothie Cafe. It's a fast casual food franchise. So you can get your healthy menu options there, like wraps, salads, sandwiches, in addition to smoothies. Me personally, as a business owner, I don't know if it's the best time to open up a restaurant. But some people have money. This is a chain. It's out of Atlanta, Georgia. So we'll see how that goes.
I'm sure it's privately owned and someone's buying into the concept. And, if they have good food, I don't know if they'll still smash it for you since it's in the same building. But,
smash smoothies.
Smash smoothies. But yeah.
Smoothie is already smashed, though.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's the definition of a smoothie. Final thing we have tonight, another good segue. A smashy, that's good. The Milford Police Department is helping, and actually, all right, let me get the sentence out first. Child car seat installation day is tomorrow. So tomorrow, if you have a baby or you're expecting a baby, you need help installing your car seat, call the Milford Police Department because they're doing an event tomorrow on November 18th to help you install your car seats. And I will tell you, when we had our first child, which is now in a week will be 15 years ago. Gavin's turning 15 next week. We did this, and we did it through I think at the time the fire department was doing it. And because I had you just get this car seat, and I tried 3 times before I actually brought it to the fire department, and it just never felt stable enough. I'm like, the kid's gonna die in this thing. There's no way this is safe. And then they put it in a way that I almost had to bring it back to them to take it out. That's how good it was put in.
That's good.
Putting in a child
by the
seat
second and third kid, you didn't care though, right?
The second kid, Caden was just like strapped to the top.
Yeah, he's good. He's good.
Yeah, he's fine. Cade, hold on. We're going fast. But anyway, guys, it's great seeing you guys. We haven't been together on the show in a couple weeks now. So it was good seeing you guys. And we want to thank Dr. Cutaia. Yeah. Dr. Cutaia, always welcome on the show. Well, most likely there's going to be some big announcements coming up in the education field again. But I think we should probably jump back to maybe Deirdre Doyle, like a Yale person, because if things – we want to get back to the medical side and see how COVID really is going. You know, it seems like cases are spiking, but it seems like death rate is staying down a little bit. But let's dive into that a little bit more, or the health department, or I don't know, Ben. You could have Ben on. So Ben's more like I like to have fun with Ben on the show. All right, boys.
Good show, boys. And hey, Milford, can you control yourselves with the toilet paper? All right, I just need about 8 rolls.
Yeah.
All right, that's all you need week to week. Leave something on the shelf for others. All right, chill.
The shelves are empty again, right?
They're empty.
It's crazy.
Ridiculous.
Right.
Insane. You toilet paper hoarders.
Peace out. Well,
I have a wonderful electronic invention I want you to see. It looks something like this.
It's not always easy, but it's worth it.
We have the opportunity to make a difference.
You might not even know it, but you can give it to someone else. It's easy to lay low.
Keep your distance when in public.
Hold off on the parties for now. Wash those hands.
Let's avoid big gatherings.
There's lots to look forward to.
I want to stay in school.
I want to play sports.
Let's get ourselves back in school. Mask up, Milford.
Mask up, Milford.
Mask up, Milford.
Mask up, mask up.
Wash up, spaced out.
Mask up, Milford.
Keep our distance and we can get through this.
Let's mask up so we can play sports.
It might be tough now, but we're gonna do this together.
Mask up, Milford.